Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good day, good evening. Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is your story, your grief, your journey. And this is a fascinating show where we really explore a lot of topics that people may feel uncomfortable discussing, but yet so many of us have gone through this or are going through it. Today, we're going to be navigating through emotional eating and how it ties to our grief. When we're going through grief, how does food and our emotions show up and play a role? Joining me is the star of our show, and then we have our special guest backstage. Let's welcome first Mr. Doug Lawrence to the show. Welcome.
Hello, and thank you very much. And hello to our listeners and viewers across the USA Global TV network. I'm so happy you were able to join us today because this is going to be a great show.
Absolutely, Doug. You know, each of these shows has brought out a lot of emotion in me. And I think a lot of times we just take things and we stuff them down and we don't want to deal with them. But having this space to share with you has really been cathartic. So I thank you for that.
Well, thank you too, because what it is for me is it's an opportunity. It's therapeutic for me, for lack of a better choice of words. And I kept so much stuff bottled up inside, and now I have a safe place where I can feel comfortable sharing what's been bottled up for so long. And it's truly helping me get through, you know, the stuff I deal with, the post-traumatic stress, but on top of that now the grief and the guilt and all of those feelings that sometimes can get the best of us.
Very well said. And again, thanks for your transparency. Doug, for people who haven't met you yet and they're just joining us for the first time or watching or listening for the first time, I'm going to spotlight you. And if you could share a little bit about the work that you do and the value that you bring to helping other people, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm Doug Lawrence, and I am a international certified mentor. I'm a retired Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer. And as a result of my service, I ended up with post-traumatic stress. And I've been dealing with that. And I was actually starting to make headway when I lost my wife in 2021 to cancer. And that kind of plummeted me back into the dealing with grief and the feelings of guilt and stuff like that that I've been dealing with. And our connection that you, Dr. Jacalyn, and you and I connecting, it happened for a reason. And I know for me, what it's done is it's opened those closet doors to allow me to let those emotions out. And on top of it all, with the mentoring that I do, mentoring is part of the support structure for mental health. What it does now is it allows me to get that message out, you know, certainly through our platform here, to be able to help people better understand that they can reach out and that we're there to help as much as we possibly can.
Thanks so much, Doug. You know, we have another program called Food and Our Emotions. And it's interesting when our guest was speaking backstage and talking about grief and food and how it impacts the choices we make. I hadn't really thought about that. So I'm really excited about this topic. Would you please do us the honors of introducing Amy?
I certainly would. And I'm going to read because Amy's a wonderful person and I would hate to miss something. So Amy Bondar is a nutritional therapist, certified eating psychology coach, dynamic speaker, and author who changes lives. Amy brings 2 decades of clinical experience in the field of nutrition and mind-body coaching, and believes that nourishing our body with the power of food, resolving stresses that are contributing to our unwanted eating behaviors, weight and health challenges, and living a life with meaning and purpose are essential ingredients to optimizing our health. Amy's the author of Journey to Optimum Wellness Through Sound Nutrition and a recipient of the 2021 Brainzy 500 Global Awards, recognized for being an influential leader in entrepreneurial success, achievements, and dedication to helping others. Amy will inspire, educate, and guide you to nourish your body, mind, and soul so you can live your most vibrant, energetic, and fulfilling life. Amy offers virtual consults and lectures to clients around the world and will partner with you on your journey of transforming your relationship with food, body, and self.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Let's welcome Amy to the program. Hi, Amy.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for being here. And Amy, I'm wondering, what is it that made you passionate about helping people in these areas?
You know, I grew up with a mom who was a chronic dieter. I had friends with eating disorders and troubled relationship with food. And I was always fascinated to understand the reason why people struggle with their relationship with food. Food is essential to our well-being, to our life. We have to relate with it every single day. And so to understand the complexities behind why people have these struggles with food is really what drove me into a counseling background, into nutrition background, and combining both of those into becoming an eating psychology coach and nutritional therapist.
So fascinating. Doug.
Yeah, so I want to take us back to February 23rd, and I actually could remember that date. That was the day you and I connected for the very first time. And you actually didn't give me the answer that I was looking for, but what you did was you've obviously sparked my curiosity. So with the loss of my wife, and when she passed, she was always a person who was very diet and food conscious and everything else. And when she passed, I started binging. I started binging on ice cream. I started binging on potato chips. And I wasn't like that before. So what I'm wondering is, what's the correlation between the two? And what would I need if I was one of our listeners or viewers listening in on the show? What would I need to do to change those behaviors?
Mm-hmm. Food often reflects where we're at in our life and what we're going through in our life. And that's really important to understand. We often eat for very specific reasons. Sometimes we eat for energy. Sometimes we eat to make us feel better about a situation that's not feeling good. Sometimes when we eat when we're under stress, when we're dealing with grief, when we're dealing with fear, shame, guilt, all of the emotions can often be expressed in why we eat. And it's very interesting that you mentioned, specifically you started to binge on ice cream and chips. Well, the truth is that every food that we crave and often turn to has a purpose and has a meaning. And oftentimes our food actually releases what we call our neurotransmitters in the brain. These are our feel-good hormones. And so when we tend to feelings of sadness, depression, grief, we'll crave a very specific food. When we feel anxiety, when we feel stress, we'll crave a different kind of food, like chips, for example. Whereas when we're depressed, we might crave things like breads and ice cream, as you mentioned. And even when we're under immense amount of stress, sometimes we don't even crave food. Some people will even undereat and lose their appetite. So the key is to really explore the exact food that you're craving and understand the emotion behind why you're desiring that food, so that then we can go on to look at, well, how do we resolve that emotion so that we're not often turning to food to stuff down the emotions, like you said, Dr. Jacalyn, or like you said, to bottle up our feelings, right? Often the food is the expression of what we're not dealing with, of what we're not expressing within our emotional world.
Thank you, Amy. That was really interesting. And I'm wondering, we have to make decisions about food every day, right? And is it possible that we just like something and we say to ourselves, hey, I just want a little piece of cake, for example? Does it always have to be wrong?
Definitely not. And it's so true. I talk about decoding our food cravings, and we really go through three different kinds of cravings. The first is the physical craving, the second is the mental and emotional craving, and the third is the soulful craving. And the one that you were just referring to, Dr. Jacalyn, is the soulful craving. Sometimes we just desire that piece of cake or that piece of chocolate or that ice cream. But those are the times when we're eating that food with great joy and pleasure. There's no emotion attached to it. We're truly eating it from a very soulful, conscious place. The other cravings, which we can explore, those physical ones and the mental and emotional ones, are the ones that are here to actually teach us something. And when we find out what those lessons are, we grow in our relationship with our food.
That's so interesting. So I just want to take it a step further and then I'll go over to Doug. So I have 3 autoimmune diseases and they're in remission, thank goodness. And I'm going to be 60 in less than 3 weeks. So I said, I'm going to do 21 days of intermittent fasting. I'm giving up my Chardonnay, which I love. Goodbye. Giving up caffeine, all these things. But once a day, like if I'm eating in a 6-hour window, I want to have a sweet. So I don't know if there's something psychological behind that, or if I feel like I need a little reward because these other things I'm giving up. What do you think?
Well, everybody is different in their relationship with food, but what you said is that I want. And so when you're saying I want to have that something sweet, that tells me that's coming from a place of soulful pleasure. And as long as you feel you can eat that without that, affecting your autoimmune conditions and triggering your symptoms, then perhaps that can be part of your window of eating. But it's when we're saying that I need to have it, I must have it, I have to have this, that's when we have more of a physical persistent craving. And sometimes we'll crave a salty food or a sweet food because we're physically missing something within our day. So, typically we have a deficiency in protein or a deficiency in essential fats, for example, that might make us crave the sweet, right? But if you're just saying, you know what, I've eaten really well throughout my day and I just want to have this little piece of something and have that with joy, that's very different than, oh my God, I got to go have that bag of chips right now. And you're going to eat it really fast and stressed and you're not sitting and eating it consciously. There's a very big difference in the energy in which you're receiving that food.
So how much of that is habit forming? Because I keep me and chips, we have a love affair. That's all there is. And I just thought, like yesterday, I was putzing, doing my stuff, getting ready, and it was time I was going to just take a break. And so what did I have a conversation with myself that said, okay, Doug, let's go to the cupboard and get, the bag of chips out, and you get your little Tupperware container. That's what you're allotted. Still some of Deborah hanging over top of me, but that's okay. And I, took that, but I started to notice that it's becoming a habit for me because it's day after day after day of the same thing. And I'm thinking, is that because I'm still dealing with so much grief and all of that? Or is it just that it's something psychological that I've told myself that, go ahead, that's your reward, or whatever however to look at it? Thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great question and it's complex. So I'm going to break it down in a few different ways. So the first thing that comes to me when you say that is, I think it's really important to explore the why of why we're eating. So why is it that you want that bag of chips, or that little portion of chips that you're consciously eating because you're opening the bag, you're pouring them out, you're going to sit and relax with them, Doug? That's very different, again, than going right into the pantry and standing there and just binging on the chips. Very different, right? So it's the why. And I think if it's becoming habit, you have to start asking, how are these chips serving me? Are they giving me the energy and vitality to fulfill my mission? Are they giving me the energy and vitality to do what I love to do? Are they giving me the best health that I'm seeking in my life? Or are they actually taking away from that? So if you're wanting to break a habit, we're having to find a different value behind why you're eating, a different purpose. Because if you can start seeing that the chips are taking away from the things that you actually want most in your life, then you're probably not going to choose those anymore. You're going to choose the foods that are going to make you have the greatest energy, vitality, focus, attention, so that you can keep going on your mission and purpose. right? But if we're missing that purpose, if we're not really having much value on our food and even in our life, then we will often continue to choose the chips because they're making us feel better about a life that we're not necessarily feeling fulfilled about. And that's really, really important. I call that soulful nourishment. When we love our life, when we have mission and purpose and we're doing what we love to do, we want to eat for energy to do that mission. But when we're not fulfilled in our day, then we'll often grab the chips or the ice cream or whatever the food is of your choice, because it's giving us the joy and pleasure that we're not receiving in our day. So that's one aspect of your question. And I can carry on unless you want to pop in and ask me. Yeah. Now, the other thing to look at it is, let's look at it from a physical craving. So let's just use the example of chips, because that's the one you brought up, Doug. So chips, we often crave them physically because they're salty. And this is really important. Our adrenal glands, our glands that help us handle stress, our glands that help us secrete our hormones to handle stress, they are a sodium dependent gland. And if we're not receiving enough natural, good, healthy salts in our diet and our day from mineral rich vegetables, from using sea salt, for example, then we can actually crave salty food. And so it's very possible that if you've had a high stress day, you're working really hard and you're craving that snack of chips, it's because you may not have gotten your physical biochemical need for the sodium earlier in your day. So if you're wanting to change the habit, you can start to sea salt your food gently. You can start to ensure that you're getting enough sodium rich vegetables like celery, for example, in your diet in your day, and see if that makes a difference to the craving later on. So that's a physical reason for salt. Now, the mental and emotional reason why we crave salty food is because when we crave crunchy, salty food, it releases the neurotransmitter of dopamine. And dopamine really helps us deal with stress. And so if we're not getting enough dopamine-rich food in our day, which usually comes from high protein, high animal-based protein, like turkey and wild game meat and grass-fed beef, for example, if we don't eat enough of those foods, then we can often crave other dopamine secreting foods like salty food, for example, the chips. So again, we can take a look at, okay, is this need for chips because I'm stressed? Is it because physically I didn't get enough of the sea salt and the animal rich protein in my day that I'm craving the need for this food? Or is it because when I eat chips, they help to alter my mood state? They help me to feel less stressed. They help me to feel like I can take a break. I can give myself permission to take a break. And perhaps that's where the work is, to say, well, can you just give yourself permission to take a break without sabotaging with chips? Can you just give yourself that permission to put your feet up and relax and be grateful for all you've accomplished in your day versus going into the need for the chips? Or is there something stressful in your life that you didn't deal with that day that's making you drive into the chips? And then we go in and we resolve that stress. So it's kind of interesting to explore all the possible reasons behind why you might want those chips, physical, emotional, soulful, and decipher which one it is for you.
Yeah, that's really fascinating, because when you think about self-sabotage, I know for me, I'm very disciplined and very structured. And when I said to myself, okay, this is what I'm going to do, I want to see by the time I'm 60 if I can have that 4-pack or 6-pack, because I work out 3 times a day. And I went to the store yesterday. I had a very small window to go in and get a few things. And I was right there by the brownies. And I said to myself, you know that this is going to prevent you from getting to where you want to go. So what are you going to do? And I stood there and I looked at them like, yep, I'm putting them in the cart. And so as I got to the checkout, I said to myself, you could still put them back. So my point is there something inside that doesn't really want me to get the 6-pack for some reason?
Well, that's the question you have to ask yourself, right? Is that what's more important to you? Is it the instant gratification of the brownie? Or is it the long-term gratification of your goal? And the question is the goal realistic? And is it truly in alignment with what you want in your life? Because if it's not a realistic and aligned goal, you'll likely sabotage it with a brownie, right? Or you might also have to just take a look at, well, can I have both? is it possible in my goal of what I want to be able to have a little bit of this brownie consciously while I'm still trying to achieve my 6-pack? Likely the answer is not, but you have to just ask, is it really truly in alignment with what you want in your life? Because sometimes we want the instant gratification and soulful pleasure of the brownie over the 6-pack. It's true.
It's definitely true. And just to follow up, and then I'll go back to Doug, I guess I also think to myself, if you get this 6-pack, how will your life change? First of all, I'm not in a relationship with anyone, so who's going to say it? And then, is the sacrifice worth it? So I run to the finish line and I go, yay, look at me. And then what? I don't know. Then I go back to eating the brownies. I'm not sure. So I think it gets all caught up in my head.
It does. And we have to really ask again, what is the inspired reason behind that 6-pack, right? Is it truly a soulful mission of yours? Is it something that at the end of the day, when you get that, is that really going to change your life and make you happier? Yes or no? And if not, then again, it's just about really reevaluating that goal and looking at the why behind you're doing it. And the other thing to take a look at is sometimes we want to eat these soulful pleasures from time to time, because we want some joy and pleasure out of life, right? And if we're not seeking that joy and pleasure in our day-to-day life from our day-to-day tasks, then sometimes we will seek it from food. And that's just something to be conscious of as well, right? And, I think a lot of times we just have to be honest with ourselves and give ourselves permission to play where we want to play, because some people will restrict that brownie, restrict, and then go and binge later because they've restricted so much, when really all they wanted to do is just have that little pleasure. The key is, if you're going to choose it, to do it without guilt and shame and negative self-talk and all of that. Is about being conscious as to why you're doing. Sit and enjoy it with pleasure while you're doing it. And then explore if it's something that you really want to continue to be doing, if it's in alignment with achieving your goals.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I could go on and on. I'm going to go over to Doug, though.
Yeah. This is why we have a whole other show on emotions and food, right? I'll be coming to that one, Dr.
Yes,
Jacalyn.
definitely. Yay.
Yes.
So maybe if I left the chips alone, I could have a chocolate bar instead. I'm not sure.
Okay, it sounds like neither of you guys want to give up your soulful pleasures.
And
that's okay.
And for me, part of it is when I was thinking back over my weekend, and I had, there were significant amounts of time of where loneliness, was a huge impact on my weekend. And so my natural recourse was, well, just have a couple chips and you'll feel better. And, one leads to two leads to three. And the next thing you know, the whole bag is gone. And you go like, well, I don't feel any better as a result of that. How do I go about changing that behavior, or can I?
Mm-hmm. Well, as you know, and as you teach, Doug, the journey of grief it can be long. And it's hard work, and it takes a lot of inner work. And I think that is very reflective in our relationship with food as well, is that it's here to teach us something, And so every time you go to that bag of chips, it's really about asking yourself, what is it that I'm truly seeking from this bag? And like you said, for you, sometimes it was just to ease the feeling of loneliness. And so if the true trigger is the loneliness, then that's what we need to go in and explore. So it's like, when you're feeling lonely, who in your life or what in your life can you do to help you feel connected, right? Because certainly the chips aren't making you feel connected, right? They're just giving you something to do in the moment. But what you want to do is, where can I find the connection? So is it picking up the phone to call somebody? Is it reaching out? Is it, going for a walk with a friend? Wherever you feel connection, that's what you're really looking for. And again, we're not going to find it in the food that we're seeking. And often that food that we're seeking makes us feel guilty and puts more shame on us, which further perpetuates the guilt and the stress and all the emotion that we're already feeling. So the inner work of the journey is to go in and truly explore why you're seeking that food in the first place and resolve that. That's the work. That's where your growth and transformation is going to happen on the journey.
So it's almost like trying to find or identify what the root cause is and then make those changes.
100%, because so often we're not clear on what the trigger is. We're not even aware because we're not sitting in consciousness with ourself and with our food. When we go to the bag of chips, we're often, I mean, you're very good, Doug. You're at least pouring them and putting them into a measured container, but most people are opening them up, eating them in from the pantry just right out of the bag and not even aware of what they've just done. The bag's gone, and then we instantly move into guilt and shame, without even going into, well, wait a minute, what triggered this need to go to the chips in the first place? That's the question. It's not because you didn't have willpower. It's not because you don't have motivation. It's not because you're weak and there's something wrong with you. No, it's because there's just something you haven't yet resolved on the journey. And it's like, okay, well, bring this next piece on, because I got to keep moving forward. And so now, okay, the next piece I have to tackle is loneliness in this instance. So what am I going to do now to really take care and nurture this loneliness so that I am connected? That's the work. That's the work, so that you're not constantly battling yourself with food.
Yeah, and I think that's I guess my biggest concern is that, you get yourself to where it's all encompassing. And, we've kind of talked a bit about the aspect of one of the potential things that can happen is you decide not to eat because, you're concerned about what the impact or how it's going to impact you, I guess, as an individual. But at the same time, I don't want to be that person that ends up, sort of seclude yourself and no food, and you just kind of live off pardon the expression, the fat of the land. But,
It's very interesting. Appetite really has a lot to teach us as well. And often we fear our appetite, especially as women seeking the six pack. We fear appetite because, we don't want to be eating too much. But in the conversation of guilt, appetite or in grief, appetite's very important. Appetite lets us know that we're here. Appetite lets us know that we're alive, that we're excited about life, that we have energy for life, that we sort of have an appetite for life. And often what I see is when people are going through grief and are really deep in their grief and are having trouble moving through, they lose their appetite because they're losing their zest for life. And so that, again, is the place for work. That is the place that brings us a moment of opportunity to say, okay, am I going too deep into my rabbit hole of grief? And what's next for me to explore so that I can move through it? What do I still need to resolve? Because you have to, at some point, choose to want to keep going forward and choose to live life. And your appetite's going to reflect in that. So if you're seeing that you're really becoming that food's really undesirable and that you don't have a desire or appetite for it, then it's often a reflection that you're not desiring your life in the moment and that you're not having an appetite for that. So how do we stoke up new fire within so that metabolism comes up and the desire to eat starts to show up again?
So interesting. And something that's coming up for me as we're having this online coaching session, which I love, is that when my father was alive, he was all about everyone gathering together to enjoy a meal. And we would go out to dinner and he would say to the server, "We're dining right now. We're going to be here for hours. So just, go wait on the other tables." And then he passed away a long time ago. But I guess through the pandemic and everyone being separated, now I typically am eating by myself. And so I'll just segue to this. We have an author who comes on and she talks about the pleasure ladder and the different, I think there's 5 levels. And the first level is that physical need. And so it's that need for food or the other things that we can have in there. But we need to aspire up to the higher level, which is our calling, our affirmations. But you can go and do your affirmations with people. You can do yoga or meditation. But there's nothing like a good old fashioned meal with a bunch of friends, right?
You're absolutely right. Food connects us. It's here where, we should be using food to celebrate, to, experience life. It absolutely connects us. And it is meant to bring us joy and pleasure, right? And ultimately, that's what we want our food to do. We want to be able to eat it consciously. And to enjoy these moments of connection and celebration and belonging with food. It's very important. It's a very important thing that we want to be able to do and not negate it in any way with guilt or shame of, oh my God, I ate too much, or I shouldn't have eaten this, right?
That's exactly right. Exactly right. So what I'd like to know is, how do you work with your clients? What does that experience look like?
Well, I begin with a 90-minute comprehensive nutritional intake just to get a really good sense of what's going on for my client. And because, again, I'm also a nutrition consultant, I've spent 20 years understanding why people manifest the symptoms and the conditions they do. So I really try to put all of the pieces of the puzzle together in terms of why somebody's presenting with their emotional eating challenge, with a weight challenge, or a health challenge that they're presenting with. So I'm looking at their health history, their current health. I'm taking a look at lifestyle, their relationship with food, their weight story, and then do a deep dive into their nutrition so I can get a sense of what's going on there. And then after the intake, along with a very extensive questionnaire that I use called an advanced NutriBody analysis, it helps me to detect nutrient deficiencies, weaknesses in organ and hormonal systems. So once I put all of that information together, then I can customize a roadmap for each of the clients that I work with. And everybody's relationship with food is different, just like every single body on this planet is different. So there is no one right way to eat. There is no one right path. There is no one right number of sessions that each client that I see is going to take. Every single person that I work with is personalized and customized to ensure that they're going to get results, and to ensure that they're going to be able to put a path forward that's going to be doable and that's going to feel great, and is going to really help them to awaken them to the power of food, and to help them transform their relationship with food, their body, and themselves along the journey. So the number of sessions, I can't tell you, but after every single client that I see, they will know what their roadmap will be to achieve the results that they're seeking.
When do people typically work with you? Is it when they get on the scale and go, oh, what's going on? Or they go to the doctor and their blood tests are out of whack, or they lose somebody in their life, or they're just lost?
All of the above. I get a lot of people who want prevention, who really just want to be preventative, slow the aging process, prevent rapid aging and chronic disease. But I also have people who, seem to feel really good with their food, with their nutrition. They feel like they know what to eat, but they're having these challenges with the emotional eating. And so sometimes I just help them support those binge moments and explore the emotional eating moments. And then other people come to see me when they are unwell, when they have manifested the condition, the symptom. They've been around the block, they've seen many different practitioners and still not doing well. I often see very complicated clients like that as well. So I get it all.
Thanks for sharing that.
So, yeah, I was just going to ask the question about the book that you wrote. What kind of prompted that for you to pull that all together?
Thank you for asking that. 20 years ago when I began my practice, I knew that I always wanted to stay connected with my clients in between sessions. And I started writing monthly, actually at the time it was bi-weekly articles, and then over time it became monthly articles, just to stay connected and keep people accountable and on path. And one of my mentors, Dr. John DeMartini, said to me one time, he's like, you have all of this written material. Why not put that into a book, into a compilation? So he inspired me to take my written work and put it in that book. And that's what the journey to optimum wellness through sound nutrition is. It's 75 tips that really helps people to think of food differently. There's recipes, there's meal suggestions, and a lot of talk about how to really shift our relationship with food and how to approach food from a more conscious and soulful place.
And if our listening and viewing audience wanted a copy of that book, where would they go?
They can go to Kindle or Amazon. It's available online.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Amy, a question I have for you is, because I've heard this from other people, is, okay, I'm not going to work out. I'm just going to focus on what I'm eating, or I'm going to work out like a complete psycho, and then I'm going to eat whatever. Like, there's no continuity between it. How important it is that when you have your relationship with food, body, and self?
I believe in balance, and I think that we need to have both. You can't do one without the other very well. But I also don't believe in extremes. So I don't believe in going to work out crazy amount of hours in a day every day and then eat whatever you want. That's sabotaging your great intentions, right? So again, for me, it's about understanding the why. Why do you want to eat well and change your diet? Why do you want to work out? Like, what is the soulful reason behind it? And get to that so that then you can find the balance, because truly people that have long-term success have a balanced approach in their nutrition and their exercise. As soon as we go into all or nothing or extremes, we set ourselves up for failure. And then we're on to the next greatest fad or latest fad out there. So I just really try to teach balance.
So important. Absolutely. So as we're coming to the end of our show, we look forward to having you on another show. There are people watching or listening, whether it's now or in the future, and they're struggling. They really are, but they don't want to make a change. They see you here, they know how to contact you, but yet people put blocks up, reasons why they're not going to do it. What would you share with them?
I would just share with them that it's okay and you're not alone. And, our challenges with food, we think it's a silent issue, but it's really collective. And all I would just encourage you to do is just be conscious on your journey with your relationship with food. You may not want to change your behaviors or your patterns or the reasons why you're eating right now. But every time you do eat something that is likely not nourishing you on a physical level, really maybe take a moment to explore what that deeper meaning is behind why you're wanting that food. What is the emotion that triggered it? What is it that you're meant to learn right now? What is it that this emotional eating moment is here to try to teach you and tell you and reveal to you that still needs to be explored on your journey? And that's really the best place to begin, is just to become more conscious and aware and get into the relationship with your food. It's here with you. It is your lifelong partner. And so use it as your teacher and as your guide.
I love that.
Yeah, and I was just going to add that I think that that's real sound and sage advice that can be used in a number of different areas in our life, even in how we deal with grief and guilt and all of those things as well. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Yes, and thank you again for having me.
Amy, I do have a follow-up question, which might be too big and encompassing. We might have to come back and discuss it further. But what if a person realizes that they're not on the exact right path, but they blame it on someone else? Well, my husband, he likes to eat this, and we eat late at night, and we like to go out and drink and whatever. And they feel like if they take that step forward, they might lose this relationship, or the other person's going to be unhappy with them.
That is a big question to unpack for sure. I don't mean to be repetitive, but I'm going to bring it back down to the same thing. It's why are you eating and why are you wanting to make this change? Because if your partner is the one that you feel is sabotaging the great intentions, it's really about communicating well to your partner as to why you want to be making these changes. So if you're saying, I want to start eating better because I want to have more energy and I want to be more patient with you and I want to feel more sexy in my body so I can feel intimate with you, then your partner is going to want to support you in that. When your partner can see how your changes and choices are going to benefit him or her, then that's going to be a very supportive relationship on your journey to helping you get better with your food. But if they don't see why it's going to benefit them, they'll probably say, oh, come on, just drink the drink, or come on and have this bag of chips with me or whatever it is, right? So you have to very much get clear on your why and communicate it effectively so they can see why you're doing it, how it's going to benefit the both of you so that you can get that support.
It's an excellent answer. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So we are at the end of our show, and we do have your banner, which has been up the whole time. But for people who are on a radio station or podcast or they can't read it, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? And who would you like this to take advantage of this fabulous giveaway you have?
Yes, so the best thing is to go to my website, amybondar.com. From there, you can sign up for my newsletter. You can also gain access to so many resources on there, interviews that I have done, articles that I have written, and you'll see all of the services that I have and my contact information to get in touch with me and to book a complimentary 20-minute call to see if we're the right fit to working together. You can all do that from the one hub of amybondar.com. You can even order my book from that site. So that's the best place to go to find out everything that you need to know.
Thanks for making it so easy for our audience to get in touch with you. And we look forward to seeing you on some other shows here as well.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for this inspiring conversation.
Thank you. Bye for now. Doug, thank you so much for bringing Amy to the platform. That was really interesting. I could have kept her here for more hours with questions. So.
I still got more stuff rolling around, and I'm still, my answer about the potato chips is going to need work.
You know, it's so interesting. I have no interest in potato chips. Do you have interest in brownies?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I thought you were going to say no. You just like salty things.
No, I'm a sweet lover. I was going to say I'm a sweet person. That's
you are nice.
Anyhow, no, I'm butter tarts and stuff like that. That's my weakness. That's my Achilles heel.
Well, it sounds like you're diversified, so that's okay.
That's good.
Doug, I'm going to spotlight you, and if you could share with our audience, what's the value that you bring and how can people work with you?
Well, the value that I bring is certainly in the mentoring and the mental health space where, you know, if you're experiencing grief as a result of the loss of a loved one or the loss of something, and you need somebody to talk to, somebody that what I bring that's really significant and is a lot different than most is that I bring my ability, my gift of being able to listen and hear and be non-judgmental. And so I'm here to help you deal with your grief and all of those things. So that's the value that I would bring to the equation. And I encourage people to step out of the closet and just extend their hand and ask for help. Let's get away from staying in the closet and not wanting to deal with or have a conversation about the things that you find challenging. So that's what I would offer as the value that I bring.
And that's very valuable, Doug. So thank you for that. And thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you again next week.
All right.
Bye. And thank you to each and every one of you who is out there watching or listening. We really do appreciate you. Our next show is coming up, and it's called It's Your Healthy Lifestyle. This is a show that I'm doing with Mr. Roland Friedel, and we are exploring everything that has to do with nutrition, fitness, mental wellness. So I hope that you'll stay tuned and join us. I also want to announce that we have something special coming up in honor of my 60th birthday, which is a birthday and book launch party. Yay, I'm going to be 60. Plus, our new book is coming out. It's the Lady Ella Has Afternoon Tea in London, which is part of his 7-book series. This has been a #1 Amazon new release, even though the paperback's not available. But we help children learn to listen at an elevated level. So I hope that you'll join us March 26th. I will put the link here so that you can come and participate. And other than that, we will see you just in a few minutes for our next show. Thanks again. Bye. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Doug.